All right, so now let's talk about the encounter phase. So during the encounter phase, you're going to have a deck that you've constructed of 40 encounter cards. Each encounter phase, you're going to draw the top card and you're going to process that card. So there are essentially four different types of encounter cards that you could draw. You could draw an event card, an environment card, a challenge card, and an interlude card. So the interlude cards are very simple. There's actually nothing to process with those. These are just there to kind of throttle the deck, and there's 10 of those in the game. One you always start the first round with. Uh, so so this is just a way to give you a little bit of breathing room every 10 or so, or every four, I guess every four rounds about on average, right? Because there's 10 in a 40 deck. So those are very simple. You don't do anything. Boom, those are covered. So now let's look at these other three specifically. All right, so the first of the other three are environment cards. These are cards that will actually stick around. The other cards that we're going to look at, the challenge cards and the event cards, are going to be one-off cards. They're going to have you do something, but these environment cards actually stick around. If you have an environment card already out, the new environment card will replace that card, or if you do not have one, then that card will stay out. So in this example, you have some text there, but its effect is when combating monsters with the mythical racial trait, these monsters receive +3 to all warfare values while this environment is in effect. And if you're wondering, well, what is a mythical creature? There are icons on the cards that will give you clues to that. So this will tell you a creature that has this icon on its card is a mythical creature. So that particular type of creature would receive the +3. The important part again is if there's not an existing environment card, this will become the existing environment card and stay there until another environment card is pulled, or if there's one out there, this will replace it. And even if the next card that you pull, let's say you pull the environment card this round, then you go through all the rest of the phases, and then the next the next encounter phase, you draw a card that's a challenge or an interlude or an event card. This card still stays out there. It's only replaced if another event card is pulled. All right, now let's talk about the challenge cards. And honestly, the challenge cards and the event cards are very similar. They're not the same, but they're similar. The text will tell you what you need to do, but the important part is this right here. So you see these two symbols? So these two symbols are very important because this is going to tell you who could potentially partake or be in part of this challenge, in this case, or an event. So the eyeball, it means a hero cannot participate if it's being tracked by a guardian. Okay, and there will be a separate video for that. But if the hero is being tracked by a guardian, then they are not considered. If it's this symbol, which is the red circle with a sword through it, they can't participate if they are adjacent to a monster. Okay, so in the situation, let's say maybe you've got it says select a hero, but let's say that it said get a random hero, and let's say that you use a d6 based on initiative to determine that, and the hero that you roll, you say you roll a 3, and that hero is being tracked by a guardian, then you're going to re-roll until you don't get a 3. Or if you roll a 3 and that hero is next to a minion, then you're going to re-roll until you don't get a 3, and that will be who processes this. But in this case, it just says select a hero. So really, you could choose anybody so long as they're not being tracked by a guardian, or they're not adjacent to a minion. Remember, adjacent is the 8 squares surrounding a hero, right? So we move in straight lines, but adjacency is still orthogonal directions as well, including diagonal. So that is what those symbols mean. And again, you're just going to process a challenge. In this case, it says test a particular trait, attribute, in this case agility. Also remember on these, this is true for the events as well. If you're using the scalable reference card, that you apply the appropriate change. So for example, at level 1, if we were using the scalable reference card, this 18 turn into a 12 because it's -6 for level 1. So make sure that you are applying those bonuses appropriately. And you may have some other abilities or gear or something that gives you some bonuses to these attributes or the different things you're doing. So make sure you're checking your gear for that. And finally, we have the event. Again, these same icons are present, but you can see here, it says each hero. So a lot of these events, whereas a challenge is typically levied at a specific hero, events are typically the whole party. So in this case, you have a check on a skill and you potentially lose gold. So make sure that you read this. Again, this text will tell you exactly who you need to try to get. But again, if they're being tracked by a guardian or next to a minion, even though this says all the heroes, if they are one of these two conditions, they are not going to be part of this check. Okay? So make sure that you pay attention to this and check your heroes before you process all the rest of that. And that actually is the entirety of the encounter phase. Remember, once you've gone through the encounter deck, when you draw the last card, then you're going to need to recreate the deck. And when you do that, you go through all 40 cards. That is going to trigger a terror level increase. So, for example, if my terror level was at 5, if I ran out of cards in the encounter deck, I drew my last card, boom, it goes to 6. Okay. Also, the minion population track will be increased as well. So if I was at a 6, now it's a 7. So that means now instead of having 6 minions out on the board, when I go to that phase and check to see how many are out there and check to see if I need to add any, spawn any in, now instead of saying there's 6, now I'm going to say there's 7. And you can see this board actually goes all the way up to 18 for the absolutely masochistic people that are out there that want to just be crazy people and try to deal with 18 of those in addition to everything else. So that is the encounter phase. Next up, it's going to be the Guardian phase. Thank you guys for watching and subscribing. Check out the next video, and I will see you there. Bye, guys.